Right, everybody. It is 7:01, and we do have a quorum, so why don't we get started? I know that Member Dupuy and Member Locke are not coming today. Member Dupuy's traveling, and I got a message from Member Locke this morning that he can't make it. Hopefully Member Johns will come, but in the meantime, we can get started. So, Chair Downs, who would you like to? Actually, I'll take roll call first, and then we'll go to the land acknowledgement. So Member Dupuy is absent. Member Johns is not here yet. Member Lee. Here. Member Downs. Here. Member McQuaid. Here. Member Yu. And Member Locke is also not here. So you're new to the chair. I'm not sure if you have a new system for the land acknowledgement.
I have, but I'm happy to do it if you want me to.
I think you've done it, right? And have you done it? Why not? We'll just start the other direction if you don't mind.
The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lejeune. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home.
Thank you. So we are pleased to be here on the April 18th meeting of the Policing Commission. The next item on our agenda, I believe, is our approval of the March 21st minutes. And those are attached. I looked over them and I didn't see anything that I noted, but does either any of the other members see anything they'd like to?
I'll move approval.
I think we have a motion, is that right? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Any discussion? All right, do you need a roll call vote on this, or can we?
Let's do it, yep.
Okay.
So I'll start with who's present. Member Lee.
Yes.
Member Downs.
Yes.
Member McQuaid.
Yes.
Member Yu.
Yeah.
And members Dupuy, Johns, and Locke are absent, but
Thank you.
Passes.
All right, the next item on our agenda is public comment for persons desiring to address the commission on policing-related items that are not on the agenda. Please note each speaker is limited to up to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the advisory body's ability to take and/or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or for a future agenda. We have members of staff here, of city and police staff here in the audience here, but not members of the public, though I think you're entitled to speak as members of the public too, if you would like. Is there anyone online who's seeking to be recognized?
Just one attendee, but I believe he's here as part of the presentation, Mr. Ulysses Cabrera. So, I mean, I suppose he can comment if he'd like, but okay. I think he's waiting to help out with the presentation. So, there being no one to comment, I think we can move on.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is announcements. So staff and commission member announcements. Does staff have announcements?
Very briefly, I know that in the last meeting and in my discussion with you over the agenda, Chair Downs, there's been some discussion about the budget cycle. I don't have a lot to say about that at this point. I think there's going to be future either staff materials or a presentation about it down the road, but just as a very, very general guideline, the city produces budgets biannually, so every 2 years. The fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. That's the fiscal cycle. So each budget is for looking 2 years out. And city staff in the finance department mostly does quarterly budget reviews to make sure that the actual expenditures and revenues are more or less tracking what the projected budget was, and to see if anything looks amiss and to address it if it comes up. In this past cycle, the last budget was adopted in 2023, so it happens on odd years. So this year, there's not going to be a new budget adopted. There's a 2-year budget in place. But City Council will hold a working session. Last time that occurred in May before the 2023 budget was adopted. So the council, the financial advisory committee, and the public all get to have comments about it and provide feedback and information. And then after that meeting happens, staff goes back, makes adjustments and alterations as needed based on the feedback they get, and the budget's generally adopted towards the end of June, before the July 1st date hits. And just since this is the policing commission, I can say that this is all stuff that we can find on the website, so none of this is particularly deep dive or anything like that, but the police budget accounted for 23% of the city's total budget. And like I said, there will be, I think we can probably schedule further staff reports if it's a member of finance or someone in the police department that's more familiar with their budget in future meetings. But for now, that's sort of the overview. To the extent that there's things that come up in this commission that might affect the budget, there won't be another budget adopted until next summer, basically. So there's time to sort of sort that out and get pieces in place. So that's all I have on that this time, but there'll be more in the future.
Thank you. Any other staff announcements before we move to commission?
None from me, no.
All right, thank you, Luke. Announcements from commissioners? Seeing none, then we go to item 5.1, and we have the Police Department Monthly Dashboard. We have two attachments on this, both a February dashboard and then a March dashboard. And then if we look, we've got each of those both on the electronic, and some of you all have paper. Is there a presentation to go with this, or is this yeah? So why don't we take a minute, and just if anybody sees anything that they want to note from the information on the dashboards. I do find it helpful to have the multiple months just to see where there seems to be particularly notable movement, knowing that there will always be some movement month to month just because of the law of small numbers. Anybody see anything else that they want to bring up or questions from it? Give people a minute.
Just want to note that it looks like patrol citations have gone up quite a bit.
Yeah, so it looks like from 79 in February, the March number 199, I think. So that is an interesting note. You may also note that some of the yearly totals have been updated because of information about earlier ones that weren't on the January report but have since been added to the yearly. Any other things of note that people want to make sure to flag? Right. If not, then shall we move to presentations? All right. So. Oh yes, sorry.
Opening this up for public comment. There's no one in the council chambers aside from police staff. And I see one attendee in addition to Mr. Cabrera online, but no hands are up. So I think we can go ahead and move on.
Great, thank you. So item 6, there are two items of presentation. 6.1 is the flock safety camera system presentation. I think we have Chief and a Lieutenant. Looks like we're getting both of you today. So welcome. We're so excited, Chief and Lieutenant, to have you with us.
Great. Thank you for having us here tonight. Lieutenant Kerwin, I think many of you may know from other meetings and interactions. We're here tonight. Oh, yeah, like that. Okay, great. I won't start all over again. It wasn't that important. Anyway, we're here tonight to present to you the flock automated license plate reader program. We will be going to council on May 6th to present this to them as well. We think this tool is going to help us reduce crime and victimization in our city, and I hope you find this presentation informative.
Good evening. So as Chief Geisberger stated, I'm going to be talking about the automated license plate reader system, otherwise known as ALPR. So the most important thing is to talk about is how does the technology actually work? So it is solar powered cameras that are installed throughout the city. As a vehicle passes a camera, a photo is actually captured of the rear of the vehicle, and it includes the actual license plate of the vehicle. The system only reads the license plate itself, the make and model of the vehicle. Excuse me, the make and color of the vehicle. Now, the vehicle license plate has been entered into NCIC or NCMEC or a hot list, an alert is sent to officers. And NCIC is the National Crime Information Center, and NCMEC is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So otherwise, an Amber Alert would be coming from that system. So when you get Flock, you get essentially a system that it provides indiscriminate evidence from fixed locations. They provide all the maintenance so that our department can actually focus on keeping Albany safe and prosperous. So that's what makes it infrastructure free, because they do the installation of the cameras, they maintain the cameras. If there's any sort of issue, they repair the cameras. There's also 24/7 coverage, which it captures objective vehicle data around the clock, which essentially is multiplying our force, more eyes on the ground. And as I stated before, there's real-time alerts through the NCIC, NCMEC, and the custom hot lists. And then privacy is also key. It's not taking pictures of people, there's no facial recognition, there's no traffic enforcement, and again, it's indiscriminate. So a lot of people ask, can ALPR devices see into my vehicle? So unlike red light cameras, ALPR devices do not illuminate to aid in identifying the actual driver of the vehicle. The purpose of an ALPR camera specifically is to identify the vehicle, not the occupants. In addition, the images of the vehicle, as you saw from the slide, 2 slides before, images are only taken of the rear of the vehicle. So what is Flock safety? It's license plate recognition. It gathers objective evidence and facts about vehicles, not people. It alerts us, the police, of wanted vehicles. It's used to solve crime. It's a crime-solving tool, and adheres to all state laws. What it's not facial recognition software. It's not tied to anyone's personal identifiable information, or what we refer to as PII. It's not used for traffic enforcement, and also the data is not stored beyond 30 days. It automatically deletes every 30 days. Flock Safety, the company itself, is into protecting privacy, so the footage is owned specifically by the Albany Police Department and will never be sold or shared by Flock. It takes the human bias out of the crime solving by detecting objective data and detecting events that are objectively illegal. So for instance, a stolen vehicle, a lost or stolen plate, a vehicle that's wanted in an actual crime. All the data is also securely stored in AWS Cloud through Amazon, and it has end-to-end encryption of all the data. So again, it's not facial recognition software, it's not predictive policing. It's not going to say a crime's going to happen over here. There's no PII contained in Flock. It's not, again, used for traffic enforcement. It's not connected to the registration data or any third-party databases like, say, Carfax or the DMV. A search reason when someone is doing a search on a license plate is required for an audit trail, and we would be getting the optional transparency portal. So in that sense, this is what the transparency portal looks like. So it measures the return on investment, and it promotes the ethical use of public safety technology. So with the portal, it's important to note that it's customizable for each agency. We can publish the usage metrics, and also we can share, it's downloadable to the public, the actual audits, search audits. So included with the portal are these insight dashboard. And what that is, the same thing. It measures the crime patterns and the return on investment, the audit search history that I just discussed above. It also will show hot list hits, so that's whether a stolen vehicle or something that was entered into the hot list. within the last 30 days. It also, how many vehicles were detected in the last 30 days by the camera system, and all the searches within the last 30 days. And that's all accessible to the public. So what accountability features does flock safety devices have that enable the audits and oversight? Well, we have to enter in reason codes or case incident numbers to verify the legitimacy of the search and create an audit trail. Authorized users, so anyone who's accessing the system, has to participate also in training to properly use the system. And then we commit to not use the data collected to work with any third-party companies. So for instance, it's not going to be used for traffic enforcement, not for revenue collectors or tow companies. Again, no facial recognition, no PI&I is captured again, and no information is provided solely for immigration enforcement purposes. So we face a lot of challenges when we're investigating a crime. Three of the main ones is going to be lack of evidence. There's no DNA, no fingerprints, no video. It's also extremely time-consuming. And then when we're limited on staff, we don't have the resources for it. So how does the technology prevent and eliminate crime? Well, it takes a proactive approach. So it's real-time alerts for wanted vehicles that enter Albany. Those real-time alerts come via either our MDC, which is our mobile data computer. I think you've seen them in our cars. Desktops, so our dispatch can see it on a desktop, or if I'm behind a desk, I'll see it on a desktop, a bit alert. Via text message, Flock has an app that's specific to our department that would also get an alert, or via email. It's also used as an investigative tool. As clearance rates increase, crime rates decrease. And then Flock cameras also just serve as a deterrent. You go into a city that has the cameras, probably not the best place to go if there's a city that doesn't have the cameras. So in the Bay Area, in the Northern Cal, in our area, you can see that the surrounding agencies, Alameda County Sheriff's Department, Alameda PD, Oakland, El Cerrito, Berkeley, San Leandro, Emeryville, Richmond, Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin, Union City, Fremont, Hayward, and Kensington recently was approved for Flock cameras. The other cities here, the other departments, also have the cameras as well. And then just in California alone, and this list is, as I've been told by Flock, it's constantly growing. More and more cities are just continuing to add them to Flock cameras to their cities. So I kind of wanted to talk about a few case studies. I think it always helps to have some examples of how it can be used and how it's been used. So in this case study, Hillsborough police officers received an alert via their Flock system of a stolen vehicle that entered their city that was stolen out of Daly City. Officers were able to conduct a traffic stop on the vehicle inside their city limits, and inside the vehicle, they found mail that was stolen from throughout Hillsborough, so their own city, which was consistent with identity theft and stolen property. One of the suspects was currently on parole, and another one had a lengthy criminal history. The Hillsborough Police Department said that the apprehension could have prevented up to 60 of their community members, essentially, from becoming victims of identity theft and fraud. Because as we know, stolen mail typically leads to identity theft. There's another case study through Atherton Police Department. They reported 90% decrease in package and mail theft, which we are also very susceptible to. Additionally, officers there have used the technology to make multiple arrests. They used it to apprehend a suspect who was accused of robbing a man of his watch at a residence on Marsh Road. One that kind of started locally here, right next door at Berkeley. So on August 14th and 23, Berkeley officers responded to a report of a carjacking. The next day, Palo Alto officers received an alert, they had just gotten Flock on their cameras, that the vehicle was detected in the area. It allowed their undercover officers to respond, locate the vehicle, and they did in the nearby parking lot. As marked cars started entering the area, the suspects attempted to flee. Officers took 7 people into custody, and then when they searched the vehicle, it found a stolen handgun and a high-capacity magazine. It sounds like Berkeley PD arrested 3 people, and the additional 2 were arrested for multiple crimes by Palo Alto. And then in San Ramon, officers received a flock alert on a vehicle that they believed to be associated within burglaries in the area. When the vehicle was actually located, they found 1.5 ounces of meth in the stolen property and burglary tools in the vehicle. So before flock, they had found 6 stolen vehicles. After flock, they recovered 21 stolen vehicles. Now, to bring it into Albany, where we've used having access to other flock cameras, we were dispatched to the report of a sexual battery. A witness had video of the suspect vehicle, very specific vehicle, and supplied it to us. The use of the flock system captured that exact vehicle traveling through El Cerrito. We were able to get a license plate from the vehicle because the video did not have the license plate, it just had the vehicle. We were able to get the license plate from flock, used the use of flock, and developed a suspect who was later positively identified by the victim. And then recently, we had a robbery occur here where officers were able to get a description of the vehicle from CCTV footage, but they couldn't get a license plate because the cameras don't, as you know, I think if you've seen, cameras don't a lot of the times pick up the license plates. Utilizing flock, we were actually able to get a license plate. However, it was on a stolen vehicle. Had flock been in place, ideally, we would have been alerted when the vehicle passed a camera as it entered our city prior to the robbery, and we would have been able to send resources to locate the vehicle and potentially deter the actual robbery itself, deter the crime. And then with Vacaville PD, they've had cameras, I don't know the exact year they got them, but they've had them for a while. So this is a long-term study. They've seen a 33% decrease in the reported vehicle thefts. We've seen a 35% increase in arrests related to vehicle thefts, and 2 times now they've gone back to council to add additional cameras. So less vehicle thefts are happening in Vacaville, and more of them are actually getting solved. And then the same for San Marino PD. They saw a 70% decrease in residential burglaries. They saw a 19% decrease in Part 1 crimes, more felonies, or violent felonies. And then 36%, they requested an increase of 36% of their cameras due to the benefit of the cameras. And then finally, there was a stranger-on-stranger abduction that occurred in 2020 in Georgia, where at 12:33 an Amber Alert was issued. At 1:01 in the afternoon, a search was conducted via the flock system. They located a suspect vehicle at 2:30, and by 5:03, they had a felony stop on the vehicle and an arrest, and by 6 p.m., the baby was reunited with its mother. And that's the presentation, if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I've got some questions, but I'd rather defer to the commissioners first. I don't have my mic on, though. That's what I really, thank you so much, Lieutenant Carlin. I do have some questions, but I'd rather defer to other commissioners if they, want to go first. Anybody want to jump in?
Sure.
Mr. Lee.
So I understand that there's been a lot of debate recently about the installation of automatic license plate readers at Berkeley, so that's really my only reference. So the case studies were really interesting, but I understand that your presentation made clear that the cameras won't be used for parking enforcement. I think that was shouted out, or traffic enforcement, that was shouted out in particular. So can you just expand on the intended use of these license plate readers in Albany?
As an investigative tool, strictly an investigative tool for crimes that occur in Albany.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. So I'd like, concretely, could you walk us through what would happen? So officer in a car, or back, or at the station. In the car, they have the mobile data device that I got the acronym wrong on, but that sends an alert, or a different system sends an alert that a car with a license plate that's been flagged has been captured in the system.
The system itself, the flock system sends the alert.
Okay,
And we can decide where the alert goes, whether it goes to
I
the
see.
MDC or via text message or
Got
via
it.
email. That's decided by the police department, but they would receive an alert that at this camera, a stolen vehicle or a wanted vehicle has entered the city
Yeah.
or exited the city.
right. Got it. So it'd come through here, get routed out, and they'd get description location probably, or something like that.
It would come, well, so there's a couple things. First, the system would pop up
Yeah,
a picture of the vehicle, so you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have the description that way. Our dispatch would then be able to run the vehicle, which they could get a return on that has actually the victim information. It has all the information, how it was reported stolen. If it was involved in, say, some sort of violent felony, we get more information once the license plate's actually read.
right, got it. So Flock allows you to pull up the correct information, and like Flock would give you the tool that you would be able to use in your other systems.
Correct.
Yes,
But they're
but
not,
it's not
they're
gonna-
not connected at all.
Got it. And then dispatch would relay that out for officers to take appropriate action.
They could relay that information out.
For the other side of it, if a officer is requesting, you used a different word than search, but if, I think that you said that with a reason, an officer could request a search, but I might have the wording wrong. So there's the sort of automatic flashes as Flock gets a picture. But I thought there was also a description of a way that you all can interact.
Sure. Yeah, and that's part of the audit process. But, so Flock as an investigative tool, so you have two sides. You have one, which is it's giving us an alert if a stolen vehicle or a wanted vehicle enters into the city or exits the city. It's also used as an investigative tool, and when you do use it as an investigative tool, let's say we have a robbery, we have a license plate, and we want to see when the vehicle came in, when the vehicle came out, or maybe it hit in other jurisdictions as well, we can perform a search. We would need to put a search reason for the audit. We would need to put a search reason, which is typically a case number. So there's a reference point. So when we audit the system and look at all the different searches, we can see what the reason was, why it was searched, who it was searched by, date and time, and which cameras were searched.
Got it. So every search that's inputted has a reason that is ideally a case number.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah. That's helpful. And then the images would be taken, would these be new installations of new cameras, essentially fixed cameras at different sites around Albany?
Yes, they're all new cameras provided by Flock,
Got it.
solar powered, that is supplied by Flock.
Got it. And how many roughly are you all asking for approval of at this point from the council?
A total of 34 cameras.
Total of 34. And just to understand how it works, to cover a corner, that takes 4 cameras essentially, or how much of a range are they able to get? Does that question make sense?
I mean, I can give you examples.
Yeah, sure.
So for instance, an intersection that is essentially a total of 2 lanes, like Masonic and Marin,
Yeah,
you would need a camera for each direction for at least for Marin itself, because it's so wide,
yeah.
because it picks up 25 feet. So it really just depends on the width of the actual roadway.
Yeah.
So if it's a narrow street, then 1 camera could be sufficient for that street, because it could pick it up coming and going.
If I know these are, numbingly concrete questions, I just want to make sure I understand it.
I understand.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. I was just going to ask where these cameras are now going to be placed. Is there a plan that will be presented to the city council, or is there a plan in place about that?
Yes, there will be a plan presented to city council with where the cameras will be placed.
And
They're
that's-
all in strategic locations. That'll be, like I said, be presented to council.
If it captures a car that does not have a license plate where it should, does that trigger something in the system, or is that,
No.
no? So an officer might see that in the way that they might any other time, but Flock is not going to.
Yeah, if you, are you saying the license plate that someone puts up in their window, or just there's no license?
No
plate on the
license
vehicle?
plate, yeah.
It doesn't, it won't alert us and say there's a car
Yeah.
entering the city that doesn't have a license plate.
And what's the cost roughly to the city if they approved?
I don't know, that's not.
Yeah.
Each camera is about $3,000
Okay.
per year. So the total, I believe we're looking at is about $215,000 for the 2-year program, which is extremely inexpensive when you consider the force multiplier it'll do for us.
Right. And then on the Atherton, all the examples I thought were great, and all of them I could sort of think I could at least get started in figuring out how they worked. The Atherton suspect robbing a man at a residence. I was just curious if you knew anything about how the flock system specifically aided in that.
I don't know the specifics. I can only be general in the sense of I know how flock is used, how I would use flock. If
Okay.
I was investigating a crime.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for how they actually used it. They just attributed it to solving that crime.
If there is I know we have the audit of searches on just the sort of, I mean, I think this sounds great and it sounds smart and it sounds very likely. You know, I don't see the entire budget picture, but it sounds very likely to be a wise use of resources. The privacy concern I would have would just be how quickly we're able to flag if the audit turns up a search that wasn't approved, because it does create, the one piece, let's say, never in Albany, but somebody's having an affair, right? It's a very powerful, incentive to look to see if their license was, caught at a specific location, right? And so, never any of our people, but what would be, the guards in place if a kind of rogue actor was trying to use it in that way?
So I believe we're looking at quarterly audits
Okay.
of the system.
And I assume that like any other piece of data, while they exist, they are subject to, if a court asks for it in a unrelated matter while it exists, then it's really up to the legal process. In other words, if the ways that other camera data gets subpoenaed in divorce cases and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is used for criminal purposes.
Yeah, sure.
So a court proceeding for divorce wouldn't apply, and the data is investigative.
Yes.
And therefore, and I'm not an expert when it comes to release of public information.
Sure.
So that would be something for an attorney.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Other questions?
I've got one. I guess it's actually directed to you. How will this be paid for by the city? Do we have grant funding? Is it sugar sweetened beverage?
No, we are going to use grant funding through our COPS funds, which is an annual grant that we get that's used specifically for something like this. It's an unbudgeted item.
Other questions from commissioners? Thank you so much, Lieutenant Curlin. We really appreciate it. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Did you want comments?
We need to be open. Thank you, Commissioner McQuaid. Do we need to be open to public comments? Yes.
Yes, we
sorry.
do.
That's
Yes.
my fault.
I think you have commission comments, but do this first. I was thinking about this.
After that, then commissioners will have time for comment. How's that? Thank you.
Yeah. So still no members of the public in the council chambers, and just the one attendee who doesn't have anything to say right now. So I think we can go ahead and move on.
Great. So comments from commissioners. Thank you.
Okay. I did talk to a council member from El Cerrito today, just because I know they have it, and just to find out what their experience was. And his first comment to me was, "Oh, we love it." But he did indicate that they are very happy with it, and it's served them well. And he said, well, you guys need it too. Okay. So that's my only live testimony.
Thank you, Commissioner McQuaid. Any other commissioner comments? Right. Well, we appreciate it so much, Lieutenant Carlin. Thank you. Okay. And then I think that concludes item 6.1. Item 6.2 is presentation regarding recruitment and retention. And I think we have Ms. Trish Gomez, Police Administrative Specialist, to join us for that. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here to give you is that okay? All right. To give you a brief overview of our recruitment and retention. I'm part of the recruitment team, so this is my task. So the first thing is in terms of recruitment. So we probably about a year ago, maybe a little more, we started an online recruitment campaign with a company called All-Star Talent. That includes social media pushes, so they created social media posts for us. All-Star also provides the ability to text directly with interested applicants. We find that people they don't want to wait for email. They want quick responses. We also, they helped us develop an exclusive recruitment website, which is joinalbanypd.us. It has all the recruitment information, everything you need to know about how to apply. You can go there. We've also done regular online advertising through Indeed.com, governmentjobs.com, and through the National Testing Network. We also do appearances at job fairs. That's generally at the community college level, so we find that we're looking more for recruits in that situation. But included in the job fair situation is Handshake. It's another place where you can post jobs. We were doing a lot of police academy visits, but we're finding at this point that it's less successful because a lot of the recruits are already sponsored by other agencies. There aren't a lot of people there who are putting themselves through the academy. We also have visual advertisements. I'm sure you've seen the poster outside the PD that's hanging. We've got bumper stickers on our cars. We have a recruitment hiring brochure that we did that probably back in 2019, and we've been periodically updating it. We also have small business cards that we can give out that have the QR code that leads you to joinalbanypd.us. We also advertise when we do community events. The PD always has a booth at the Solano Stroll. We generally have recruitment information when we do our Coffee with the Cops events. And then we do employee referrals. People who work for us tell us about people that are interested. And in fact, 3 of our most recent hires were referred by current employees. So that's about it for recruitment. As far as retention, so I would say if we're talking financial, there's, right now, we're offering 80 hours of comp time for lateral hires after completion of our FTO program. That goes for any lateral that we hire. It can also be given to an employee for a referral. If they refer somebody, they get through our FTO program, they get 80 hours of comp time as well. We currently have a temporary retention pay incentive, which is good through the end of this year. That's providing 2 hours of comp time per pay period to each of the officers, with an additional 2 hours for every month you were employed at the end of the fiscal year, which makes it a maximum of 76 hours. The officers are also offered longevity pay. That's pretty common. We have ours at 10 years, 15, 20, and 25 years, and that's 2.5%. I would say the other 2 pieces are our work-life balance. And if you go to joinalbanypd.us, you'll see that we have a large portion of the website devoted to work-life balance. The officers work a structured 12-hour per day schedule so that each officer receives 4 days off in a row every other week, including weekend days. So you can come to work, but you can also spend a good amount of time with your family. The last piece I would say for retention, looking at our department, it's our PD culture. We have a family atmosphere. We say that a lot. We are like a family because we're very small. Everyone knows one another. The chief knows everybody's names. Anybody can walk into the chief's office at any time to talk to him. At an agency, for example, as large as San Francisco, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I would say those are probably the biggest pieces for retention. We don't have as many bells and whistle type programs that some young officers may want, but we offer a very structured, very familial atmosphere. So that's it, unless you have some questions for me.
What else can we do? If you had unlimited budget, unlimited authority, what would you do for retention?
What do you think, Chief?
In this room only?
Well, yeah, salary is a big thing. And some of the other things that other departments have to offer are take-home vehicles. So they're making more money, and they have a vehicle that they're able to take home. I'm trying to think of some of the other there's other incentives that get built into contracts that increase salaries for people. I also just wanted to touch a little bit on the work-life balance. I know Trish mentioned the 4 days that sometimes people get off. That's in an ideal situation. What's kind of nice about the 4 days is usually one of those days may get broken up because of court, or tonight we had an arrest that required us to call somebody in. So they were on their days off, and literally, I think probably 3 to 4 hours before they were needed, they were called to come in. So their weekend is now, they're spending their day off here tonight. And that's not an uncommon thing. So while it may sound like, wow, 4 days is great, oftentimes those 4 days are not really 4 days off.
Or were you about to ask something, Brad?
Since you mentioned salaries, how does the salary, or do salaries in Albany compare?
I haven't done a survey on salaries, but I feel pretty confident that we're not at the real middle top end of things, but that will be something that's looked at in the next few months.
So the average cop salary is,
I couldn't tell you. I don't have that number now.
okay.
Do you have a ballpark of how long it takes to fill an open position in general?
I would say, and this is not just our officers, but anybody, because we do a full background check. There's many layers to it. My estimate would be 4 to 6 months.
Is that,
Sometimes as much as 8. It took 8 months for me to get hired.
and is that from time of posting the
No.
job? No. So that wouldn't include whatever time it took to
Correct.
get a large enough applicant pool?
Correct.
So even once you have a large applicant pool, it could still be another
Correct.
48 months.
Yes.
How long do you have a ballpark of how long does it usually take to get a large enough to get a viable applicant pool?
We've currently been running a continuous application process, so it's been more than a year that we've been doing that. So, we've been running continuous for so long that I really can't remember, to be honest with you.
And so it's, obviously at any given moment, people could have been snapped up. But in general, if you have a posting, there are already some, at least, plausibly qualified candidates in the recruitment system.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether they're the candidate you want or all those things, right? Yeah, those are other
Correct.
questions.
Yes.
You're not starting from scratch.
Yes.
And do you have any sense of how, on retention, we're doing relative to peer departments, to, relatively small Bay Area departments?
No, I actually don't know anything about any of our local departments. I don't know what their retention rate has been.
Yeah. And is there any kind of sense of how likely, I know these are long horizons, but how likely, if someone is in the Albany Police Department, how likely is it that they'll retire with the Albany Police Department? Is that a kind of default setting, or is that rare, more rare?
I've only been there 5 years,
Yes.
so I really don't know. I mean, people come in with different,
Sure,
you know, maybe they need to move,
sure.
maybe, you know, there's all kinds of factors involved in why an officer would stay and why they would leave.
How common is it, in your experience, for us to have an officer leave Albany for a roughly geographically proximate department? Like a department
Same-size
in the
department?
area? Oh, sure.
I don't know, what do you think, Chief?
I would say typically the people who have left is because it's geographically closer to where they reside,
Right.
as well as the benefits.
Got it. What are the benefits that really, are the benefits go back to what you said before? or
Yeah, I
are
think
there-
salary and other, signing bonuses that are actual cash that they're getting, and then other peripheries, and then also larger departments that have more opportunity for movement and more specialties.
How often, I know these are, guesstimate type questions, but if you're doing a search for an officer, do you feel like you've got multiple really viable candidates?
If we have a large pool, we're consistently getting applicants in. It just depends on the job that we're looking for. It's, recruits take more time to put them on the street. It's going to be the time to hire them, and then the time to send them to the academy, and then the time to train them. So we have found a smaller number of recruits at this point. It's just sometimes they trickle in, and then other times we got about 4 months ago, we just got blasted with a ton of applications. It just really depends. We're battling every other department because
Sure.
everybody's looking for people. So
Can I just make sure I understand, when you use recruits, that's as distinct from laterals?
yes, a recruit is somebody who is brand new to the profession. We would hire them, we would send them to the academy, and then they would be trained. They would go through FTO. A lateral is somebody who comes from another department who's already working as a police officer.
Questions from commissioners?
I have a couple. So you mentioned 4 to 8 months to hire. Does that include, say, for either a lateral or a recruit, all of the FTO work and all that? Or is that just hire till they walk in the door and are handed it?
Yes, that's just walking in the door.
And then, so how long is training after that?
I don't have the answer to that question.
So our FTO program will vary, because if we bring in a lateral, they may be able to accelerate through the program because they already have a working knowledge of how police work is done on the street, and they really just need to learn our culture, the way we do things operationally. So that could be a short period of time, whereas somebody else, usually it's about 18 to 20 weeks of training.
Run someone closer to a new recruit?
Yeah, so somebody who's maybe already been through the academy, and we hire them as what we would call an academy graduate, then they start their field training program, and that's about 18 to 20 weeks.
So the whole process for those people is over a year, from the time they start to fill out the application.
So for somebody who is already out of the academy, I would say they're probably close to 9 to 10 months until they're actually out on the street.
But out on the street alone?
Out on the street alone, yeah. And then somebody who goes to the academy, that's a whole nother, the academies are up to, I think, 26, 28 weeks, depending on which academy we go to. So for somebody we're trying to put through an academy, depending on when we hire them, it could take over a year till we actually see them, because it would just depend on when the academy class happens. If we have a gap between when we hire somebody and when the academy starts, we like to bring them on board just beforehand, so then they can learn a lot of our internal policies and practices, and then we get to know them as well. So that, that helps them hopefully have better success in the academy too, because we do prepare them for what to expect in an academy. I'll give you a one-off that happened to us. We had somebody who we were hiring to be a recruit. The academy wasn't going to start for a few months. They were unfortunately in a significant car accident and had some injuries, so we could not continue forward with them because they weren't recovered in time to go to the academy. So we spent our energy on this person, really, a lot of time on them, and had to back out of it. So those are things and struggles you have in the hiring process.
Thank you. Do we have open are we running searches right now at the field officer level?
We are.
How many positions are we?
We currently have
Looking for-
4 openings.
Four.
4 openings.
All of those are positions we're down, or some of those are about anticipated departures?
Those are all, we're down.
So we're -4 from what council funding
Yes.
or projections would be. And any sort of sense of how, a kind of time frame in which you would guess, that some of those would start to fill based on applicant pool process, et cetera?
Unfortunately, there's no specific time frame.
Yeah.
We do have people in backgrounds now, but you just don't know how long that's going to take. A lot of it depends on the applicant themselves, because the background process depends upon speaking to people in their lives,
Sure.
putting together documents. The quicker they can get that done, the quicker they can get through. But it's scheduling testing. A lot of factors go into the time frame.
So it sounds like the 4 to 8 months you talked about, most of that, there's not a lot of, are there ways that we could perfect the system, or you feel like it's such a complex set of processes they have to go through? You
It
can't
really is.
make it any
A
faster?
lot of it is not due to delays from us
Sure.
necessarily. It's just the way the process works.
You about to?
No, she ended up
Okay.
hitting on it about the people we have in background, but we've unfortunately been, over the years, hiring people consistently, and so we have kind of really streamlined our process and have gotten things going much quicker than we had 5-10 years ago, easily. So we've really tried to accelerate that process, but there is things that just slow down depending on where somebody's lived. It may be more difficult for a background investigator to get all the information they need. So, but I think we have it pretty well down to a pretty decent science. I'm sure there's some place we could probably tweak it, but for the staff time we have to put into it, I think we're doing pretty well on it.
Thank you. Other commissioner questions?
So you say you're down 4, but 4 out of, I think we're allowed 27, but there's 2 of them there. So 4 out of how many on the street? I guess the question is, how many would you like to have at that level?
How many would I like to have? Or how many
Be careful
am
you
I
ask.
authorized to have? So we're actually authorized 26 sworn. So our patrol team is ideally 1 sergeant and 4 officers. So we would have 20 people on patrol.
So you're down a fifth, so you're down 20%.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not the best at math, but yeah, we're down a good number. And that's
16, and you would.
And what you also have to keep in mind is those are just vacancies. We have people out on injuries, other matters, people who are having babies, and things like that. So it's not just 4 people we're down. Yeah.
In responding to that, I imagine it's a mix of smaller patrols, overtime. What are the sort of mix of ways that you can respond?
Yeah, excuse me. It is a mix of, we now typically run our teams with 3 people out on patrol. And then if we have a 3rd person who can't be here, then that is supplemented with somebody coming in on overtime.
So typically, and one sergeant, three people on patrol.
It would be,
Sergeant's one of the three.
yeah, the sergeant's one of the three, so one sergeant and 2 patrol officers.
Thus, the need that if you got down to 1 and 1.
Then we would need another, yeah, we just wouldn't have the staffing.
Here, barring.
I'm sorry, I'd probably cut
I'm
you off.
sorry. One of the people is supposed to be in the department much of the time. Is that right, or not necessarily?
So ideally, anybody working patrol is actually out in the
Sure.
field, but they do get, like our sergeants get drawn in because they have ancillary duties like overseeing our vehicle fleet, training, so that they'll tend to have to be in the station sometimes a little bit more. And then our patrol officers get drawn in because they have to do follow-up, they have to write reports. So it's not, everybody's always out at the station.
Thank you. Any other questions before we turn to comment? Thank you so much, Ms. Gomez. How about if we do public comment, then commissioner comment? Is that okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Is there any public comment?
We have the same one quiet person in the internet audience. Doesn't seem to be eager to raise her hand, so I think we can move on.
Okay. Comments from commissioners? Right. I want to, I would take that as a testament to your clarity and in providing the information and answering our questions. So thank you so much, Ms. Gomez. We really appreciate your time and your helping us, learn about these issues and for your work. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes item 6.2. Item 7, we have 7.1, subcommittee update. There's no written this time, but I think we do have oral update on, meeting with the chief. Does either Commissioner Johns or Commissioner Lee want to do that, since you've heard my voice enough today? Okay. Or unless, do you want to do it, Commissioner Johns? Or? Okay, I'll start us off. So we met last week. I think I don't have the date in my mind with the chief, and had a lengthy meeting about different ways of thinking about meeting that covered a number of topics. One of which that I think would be great for the commission as a whole to engage with was the ways that the department has responded to complaints in the past, including its own systems of referrals, and some of the ways that it has aimed to utilize referrals to create a distance and oversight from the chief or from direct city officials. And so, I thought that was very helpful in understanding what past practice is on responding to complaints, as well as we talked about then what can come back from that process, which can include, reports, that can lead to action or that can, lead to recommendation of no action. Also talked about other spaces to measure accountability in the system, including frequency of lawsuits, right? That if a complaint system is, I think I'm summarizing the chief's view accurately, but if not, please correct me, but that if a complaint system is not fulfilling its mission, that you might see then more examples of lawsuits filed against departments that, including successful suits. And so that is another measure to see if whether that was suggested as a way of seeing whether the complaints and the resolution seem to be speaking to the facts of the case and the judgment of the people who filed them. So, we got, background information on that, which I think would be great for the committee as a whole to learn about, because it certainly, provides us with more understanding of, both sort of what has happened and also, where we might, think about ways of engaging with that system. As well as discussion about different kinds of qualifications, the sort of sense of why investigative experience and the chief's, experience, why investigative experience is crucial for being able to do the work, both to do the work and to do it within the limits of the law, as well as, different potential models for thinking about how to ensure that any outside investigator is working independently of the city to the degree possible in a contractual situation. And then we also had a broader discussion of the commission and, its charge, and also the sort of ways of building greater trust between the commission and the department and the broader community over time. What did I miss? I guess first I'll ask the other commissioners, and then, I'll let the chief have a elaboration rebuttal period, because my goal was to capture the tenor of our discussion. So Commissioner Lee and Johns, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I could just add some more details about the system of referrals that I think you mentioned. So to provide a bit of context, the chief talked about how complaints that fall under certain categories, such as excessive force, are, of course, investigated internally, but the concluding report that comes of that investigation is also sent to the state for review, and must be sent to the state for review, just to provide a little context.
Done? I just wanted to say thank you to the chief for taking the time to sit down and talk with us. I realize that a large part of this process for the commission, for the department, and for our community is really about building trust. And I appreciated the chief's professionalism and sincerity, which he always demonstrates. But I just wanted to say that publicly, that I appreciated it then, I appreciate it tonight. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, and it may be that Commissioner Lee said this, but just in case, the specific group that had been utilized was Municipal Resource Group. I think that's correct. And to handle outside investigations. And Luke has their, they're both Googleable, and Luke also has their website if anybody needs help finding it, if they want to look into it. It's called Municipal Resources Group. And then we also reviewed, the sort of ways that people can find out, as we've talked about in a prior meeting, prior complaint, records that are kept by the Attorney General's office in those reports, and also about ways the commission can be proactive in trying to collect and, gather and put in a easily accessible place the Albany specific data, so that people who are, struggling to swim among the different reports could find a Albany combined report, from that, which I think would be an interesting thing for, commissioners, could do with that public data and make it more available, and, possibly include it on the website. It would just include our collection of the data that's already there on the Attorney General's office. It seems to me in the spirit of appropriate to allow to even, whether, I don't know what the agenda is, if the agenda permits it, but I'd certainly welcome, as long as you think the agenda does, if the chief has anything he wants to add about that meeting, since it is about our meeting with him. So I would
Sure.
feel like it would be, obviously he's not required, but I feel like it'd be, justice would allow you to have your rebuttal.
Great. Commissioner Johns, thank you for those words. That means a lot to me. And I hope that goes to us building trust, because you're 100% right. It's trust amongst the commission and me and my department and our staff members is extremely important. Having that trust hopefully extends out to the community, so you can feel comfortable knowing when you are talking to community members who I am as a person, and my expectations of my staff. So And I do appreciate the three of you meeting with me, taking time out of your busy schedule. Alex, I know you have winding down school and whatnot, so I value that time, and it means a lot to me that you were able to come. I don't have anything to add as far as what was covered. I think it's a great synopsis of the meeting we had.
Thank you so much. And, I want to repeat, fellow commissioners, thanks for the time and for the details. Questions from the other commissioners, then public comment, then commissioner comment. So any questions from the other two commissioners? All right. Public comment.
Have the same group of one in the audience. Give her a second to pipe up if she wants. No pressure, of course. I think we're good to move forward.
Okay, commissioner comments. All right, well, just want to thank you again for the time and thank all of you all for coming and for all the presentations and information. And so item 8 is future agenda items. So a time for commissioners to announce requests for future agenda items.
I think we should have time for whatever discussion we might have about the flock safety camera system.
Commissioner McQuaid.
I'm trying to be really careful not to talk about it. It's going to council May 6th. I think we're done. I think now it goes to them to resolve. So I'm not sure why we would put it back on our agenda, is what I'm perplexed about.
Okay, well, maybe I can just email and ask a couple questions.
I think that's appropriate.
Other future agenda items. All right, I think, I don't know if we need to, say it now, but, potentially another subcommittee update if we have one, whether oral or written. And then obviously, glad to have additional reports like the ones today, presentations in terms of other areas. We talked with the chief in our subcommittee meeting about other potential areas for presentation, which could include, presentation to the full body on the complaint process, as well as presentation on, specific, policy questions that he and we agreed there might be public interest in, use of force, questions like that, policies like that. So I think any space we have for those, and then also, as you mentioned, just as becomes timely, updates on the budget process, which sounds like might not be next meeting, but as it becomes timely. Any other agenda items? All right. Do I need to is this one that also goes to public comment?
Yeah, just for 1 minute, but it's the same audience of one, so unless they have a very strong opinion about the next agenda, I think we can probably move on.
Okay, thank you. So then that concludes item 8. Item 9 is our announcement of our next meeting, which is May 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m., same place in real life as well as virtual life. And following that concludes our meeting. We don't need a motion to adjourn, I think.
No, we don't.
So
We
we
are
are adjourned. Thank you.